Breaky breaky? Escape from Tarkov is already a very difficult and hardcore tactical shooter that tilts me off the face of the earth.
Well, the worst thing that can happen is I get shot, so there's that.
Jesus Christ! So what's better than to actually create a very similar game, but in virtual reality? In comes Ghost of Tabor saying challenge accepted and making what seems to be one of the coolest VR games I've played in a while that seems to have a good amount of longevity to it. Having played a decent amount of it in the closed alpha that they had, I had a little more insight into what the potential of this game could be. The game's finally out now in open alpha, and it's one of the best things I've seen so far in terms of the communication and the transparency that the devs have presented right now. Although this isn't the first Ghost of Tabor review that you're probably seeing on the internet because a lot of people are talking about it right now, You haven't heard me talk about it. As I mentioned before, they had a couple of issues when the game's open alpha finally released, but they've been so good on transparency and communication. This could be partially because I don't actively check Discords, but when I did with Tabor's, the devs and the mod team were actively updating what was happening with the server. Current updates on the game and fixes that they'd apply almost hourly, if not every 30 minutes, which was insane. If something happened, they would let everybody know immediately, which I just gotta say kudos to that sort of transparency and communication that I don't see a lot of devs do. Now that I've finished kissing the absolute ass of Ghost of Tabor's developers and mod team, let's actually get to the gameplay port. Ghost of Tabor is an extraction type shooter that expands on the core gameplay elements that Escape from Tarkov already has in some aspects. Although some aspects aren't as complex as the healing mechanics of Tarkov, where if you unfortunately break your leg and you don't have the proper medical supplies, and you literally have to drag yourself across the entire map in what could be the most agonizing few minutes of gameplay to have ever existed. This shit sucks, bro. Ghost's core gameplay elements are still there, even if a stim literally solves all of your issues and that's the only healing mechanic whatsoever. Everything feels well thought out in terms of the bunker that you stay in, which has several different sections for you to explore. And after playing the alpha and having a good amount of knowledge on the game, I was basically greeted with the items that I got in the base edition of the game, which gives you plenty to start with. The only pain in the ass, which I hope gets fixed, was the fucking sorting! I spent around 40 minutes straight jumping from one room to another, just trying to align the guns on the walls, put backpacks in the proper slots, armors in the cabinets, and mannequins, and so much more. I kinda wish the game at least had auto-sorted it for me by stacking everything in its correct place. One, so I could at least get a rough idea on where specific things go. Now, I obviously know that, the guns go on the gun wall and the meds go in the med room and etc. But I was having trouble figuring out where some of the more other unique items might be stashed. Like, you might not know where to put the bullet casings or the gunpowder specifically in your hideout. Or you could be like me, which didn't even realize until way too late that I actually had shells to be able to store the proper ammunition in. And two, because most people just want to go out looting and shooting instead of playing next level VR Tetris and whatever is in their stash. And I only got the base version of the game, which gave me a lot of stuff, so I can't even imagine if you got the Edge of Dark... I really just called the Edge of Darkness. The other versions of the game, such as the Founding Father, Nuclear, all that sort of stuff. Complaints aside, it literally feels like the hideout in Tarkov, which has its own medroom and possibly a Bitcoin farm of some sort. I've yet to know what the other rooms do specifically, but I'm excited to find out eventually.
I actually tried to step my foot in and open up the trash bin just now to be able to drop this in.
It's cool that the replacement for your stash in Tarkov is a literal gun wall where you actually have rooms upon rooms to be able to line up as many guns as you can manage to fold and fit along your wall, as well as the storage closets to hang up armor and backpacks. And there's further rooms such as the gun range, the pantry, and common areas, and intel rooms.
Can I grow weed here?
All with their own cute little actions. Like, I can make fucking coffee. I think the coolest part of all of that is the fact that you have the choice of whether or not you just want to explore the hideout and figure out stuff for yourself, or you can basically listen to an instructional video that tours you throughout your hideout. But me being an idiot, I decided I want to just get straight into the action. The core gameplay is basically the same, where it's still loot, kill, and survive, as well as doing personal quests for each of the vendors in the game to be able to level up your personal relationships with them in order to gain more access to higher level and more advanced equipment. You literally have the exact same vendors, such as Prapor being the gunsmith, Mechanic also being the gunsmith, Therapist with the meds, Ragman with the gear, and the rest of them.
Why do those guys look like they're plotting?
And there actually seems to be like a player-run flea market as well. How this expands upon Tarkov's vendors is the fact that you're actually able to pick up, hold, and actively modify the guns that you want to buy so you truly know what you're getting. Of course, you can't just load the guns and shoot the vendors. I tried.
Give me the gun.
But even in showing this, what I've seen from the modification system, it runs deep to the point where you can't attach sights to weapons without the proper rails or prerequisites that weapons would usually need, unlike other games where it just clips and sticks onto weapons. The gunplay feels similar to Into the Radius, which will get its own video soon, which is nice and all because you can actively modify some of the lootables that you find in Raid. The AI as of writing this video, which is basically around the release time of this game, is a bit finicky because they either have Stormtrooper aim with an automatic weapon, or they're literally the next Chris Kyle from American Sniper with how I'm getting sniped with a 9mm pistol from thousands of yards away. I think the most annoying part might be how they permanently zone you if you manage to aggro them, so it's not like they're gonna shift their focus anywhere else, even if you completely run away from them. Almost knowing where you are at all times once you do. I don't think they necessarily chase you, but they will just know your location automatically. That's at least what I've experienced so far. The level design is laid out pretty well, with the missile silo being a nice compact place where you can extract quickly and get loot quickly. Kind of like a much bigger factory where you can still extract pretty quickly, but then you can also stay there for a long period of time. And then you also have another completely open map, which is nice to be able to like actually loot around and explore the large area that the maps provided. One part that I really like about the levels is that you're actually able to toggle on and off your extraction points, which for VR I think is extremely helpful because you just have to find shit in Tarkov and just figure it out yourself.
Bro, this game fucking sucks.
Which can be a total pain in the ass to new players because not everybody will automatically realize that they have to actually pull out a map and find the extraction zones themselves. The loot in this game feels somewhat realistic because it's scarce but not too ridiculously scarce. And once running through these maps enough times, you start to find newer areas that you might have not considered before, as well as creating routes for yourself once you finally practiced enough. Although there's no strict melee combat, you do have a knife that actually adds a bit more to the game, as well as there's a really cool sneak mechanic where you can actually snap players and NPCs necks with the element of surprise. Which is a nice thing to know if you pull some shit like I did and you forget to go into a raid with, anything.
Wait, I didn't pack any of my...
I didn't pack shit. All the weapons feel like they have a considerable amount of kick to them depending on the caliber of gun. And speaking of calibers, they have a really cool mechanic in the system where you don't actually buy any of your ammo. Instead, you buy the casings and the gunpowder, and in your hideout, you have a machine that actually creates the type of ammo that you request at will. And you actually have another machine that loads the clips so you're not stuck putting each bullet or shell one by one, which is still a mechanic in the game just in case you're in the middle of a raid. The community on Discord, as well as outside of the game, has been fantastic. And the community in the game is basically a replication of Tarkov's community, which is gameplay-wise a 50-50. Like either you get a chance of meeting some really cool people that offer you loot or join in your personal raids, which I've had, or you just have the typical people that'll shoot you on sight.
Hey guys. Okay, never mind.
Oh, fuck. I think the tensions might be a little higher on this game since you can actively see whether a person's actually going to raise their gun against you or not, due to the mannerisms they might actually show while you're in the middle of interacting with them. That element of being able to actually tell what a person's doing just by their physical actions adds so much immersion to the game. It also makes for more intense gunfights and interactions with the people you come across. Luckily, you're also able to band together with friends and tackle a raid and see if you guys make it out successfully.
Nice. Okay, he's down. You guys good?
Well, that wasn't really family friendly. As much as I talk about Tarkov, because this is basically a VR carbon copy of the game, which is not a bad thing, by the way, I think it's actually amazing to be able to bring a game like this to VR. And I hope that it manages to keep players on the grind for a long period of time with the constant updates, white mechanics, as well as the introduction of newer levels that they probably plan to bring into the game.
Damn, failed bot. You'll be remembered.
This is a game that I think sets a really good stepping stone for actually having a lot more longevity when it comes to VR games. Don't get me wrong, the game is absolutely riddled, and I mean riddled with bugs. But don't let that take away from how amazing the potential of this game can be. It is a lot of fun, and maybe because of how modern gaming is nowadays, it's ruined our expectations because we actually don't usually get fully developed games. And instead we're putting a lot of alphas and a lot of betas for games that aren't necessarily finished yet. But regardless, nonetheless, the developers are clear with their motives and have a fantastic line of communication with their community. But I think what Ghost of Tabor has is really special, and I would highly recommend it to any other VR enthusiasts. But that's my personal take on the game. I didn't realize until recently that they actually have their own sort of scav boss in this game in some of the maps, so I actually want to do a stream where I don't end stream until I manage to get one of their masks and extract with it. Bro, just look at this. Tell me that shit doesn't go hard. So I'll actually be live streaming on Friday the 14th at 2 p.m. EST, so feel free to stop by if you want to see how long it takes for me to get a mask. And if I happen to get it pretty quickly, then we'll probably just keep playing and vibing from there on out. Yeah, but that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, leave. This shit better be good.